Good old tailgate lunch. Saltine crackers, smoked oysters. It's a pretty good lunch. But we're in the swing of harvest now, and things are starting to get pretty busy. And so we've got our wheat we're harvesting, and we started some sugar beets this week too, some pre-pile beets. So we dug some beets this morning, and my uncle just ran a sample for moisture content on wheat. And so he's running into the elevator in town with my brother, and they're gonna see what percent we're at, see if it's dry. Wheat has to be a certain moisture percentage to be able to harvest it, ideally under 14, but if it's a little above, you can put it in a bin, or there is free drying at the place we're going to with some of this, so that is an option too, if it's dry enough. So while I'm waiting on that, might as well have a little smoked oyster snack. Here they are. So I've got a question for you guys, and I've got to say, I haven't said this in a little while. I have been really amazed, and my wife Jennifer has been very amazed as well, at all of the very nice comments a lot of people are saying. I try to read them all, and I don't always get to reply to all of them, but I've got to say, thank you very much for all the comments and all the support. It keeps me going, it really does. It gives me encouragement to keep making videos, and it's fun, so thank you for watching. But this is the question I had for you. What is your favorite canned snack? Smoked oysters for me, and I like smoked oysters. Vienna sausages are pretty good. Potted meat, you know, that's alright too, but smoked oysters, probably my favorite. What is your favorite canned snack? Welcome to the Red River Valley of North Dakota. A land flowing with milk and honey. You're watching Beet Farmin Mitch. Well, we got our guy going next door here. He's disc chiseling some wheat ground. And so while we're waiting to hear back on the moisture test, let's go take the drone up and see how that's going. Cheers. Well, we were at a different field earlier, but the sample on the wheat, the moisture is 17.3, and that's pretty high, so we're gonna hold off until 5 o'clock and give her another go and see what we got. And this field's probably a little less ripe too, and the kernels are pretty soft, so I'd say this is probably pretty wet still too. But I got a job in the meantime. I'm gonna take the 435 and the horse joker, go work up some sugar beet headlands. So here's the sugar beet field here. The rows go this way and the headlands we harvested earlier today. Just kind of leveling off the headlands, and then there's some tear piles, some dirt piles that were on the headlands that we dumped there. So just kind of leveling some of that out, and we can hop out and look here, but I'll show you why it's important to do this. Otherwise it's rough and it rips your trucks and tractors apart. Well, they just ran another sample over there. We'll see what it comes out to this time, but there's chances of rain tonight, so if we don't get going today, it might be a little bit. Don't hit the beets. Better not take out the neighbor's wheat. Oh yeah, I can smell the sweet smell of sugar beets and some soil kind of in the air. It's a good smell. Freshly harvested sugar beets, that's a good smell right there. A scent. So I've got the horse joker on here, so it's just a high-speed disc, and yeah, you can see it's nice and level behind here, and it's nice and smooth walking across it. And I mean, for cropping purposes, it's not a big deal, but for truck reasons, it is. So the main rows in this field go this way, and this is the headland here, and you can see where the rows used to be. And so the sugar beet lifter, what it did is it lifted the sugar beets, which were in this kind of trench here, It lifted those out of the ground. And so what you've got is all these trenches and these humps, and these are really hard. So if you're in a truck and you're driving across them, it's really rough. And same with tractors. And I mean, you don't want to be doing that to your trucks and equipment. So it helps when you run this and level them off. You could use a field cultivator too, but this works pretty good for this job. Well, my uncle's combining wheat over there. It's a go. We're down to 15.5 moisture percentage, which is a little high, but it's going in an air bin, and the elevator in town it wouldn't charge us if we hauled that in, so that's all right. Time to cut some wheat. Holy smokes, it's hot in here. Still got the old trusty 2388. Well, just pulling it into the field here. It's a bit of a process to unfold this thing. You gotta open up your hopper and unfold your auger, and there's a fair bit of stuff to do. Create a new field. Open up the hopper. So there you go. There's your hard red spring wheat. So my uncle and I, he's driving the 9230 there. We're making our first lap around the field. We got a quarter here, and what we do is we split the field in half, so we're gonna combine it in 2 80-acre chunks. So we're making our first lap, and you gotta kind of combine the spot out so he can unload so he can make it all the way back. Then we got my brother Jason in the grain cart there. He's a heck of a grain cart guy. And this wheat looks pretty good. This is a good wheat crop out here. Not every field, but this field specifically is pretty good. Here we go, combining wheat. So there's actually a lot that I'm paying attention to while I'm doing this. Number one, I'm looking at how the crop is feeding in and the stubble behind me. Actually, I should say number one is probably this engine load. I'm kind of shooting for 80 to 90%. You can go above 100, but you don't want to be pushing it that hard. I kind of find when I get up into the 90%, my grain loss sensors, these two, rotor loss, sieve loss, they start to go up. So I assume there's a little bit of grain trickling out at that point. So 90 is kind of the highest I push it. This is good wheat, so you know, 90 is about the max. And then this is just my rethresher here, and that's just, you know, your tailings, your rethresher, that stuff that's gonna get shaken through the sieves. So that's okay if that's high. You want that to be up a little bit. And don't get too excited. The yield monitor is not calibrated properly. We got a 45-foot head here. My uncle's got a 45-foot head on his as well. And we got her set up to run auto steer, so that's kind of nice. Get to spend a little bit more energy looking at other stuff. So you can see I was talking about moisture earlier. You can see it's around that 14%. That also isn't calibrated perfectly on this one, but it is pretty close on the moisture. So yeah, watching engine load, that's probably the number one thing. Also kind of paying attention to what else is going on in the fields, where we're at for trucks and grain and different things like that. So there's multiple pages on here. This is called a Pro 700 screen. It shows me how many acres I've harvested, and there's the auto steer page, and then here's the sieve page. These are pretty much all the way open. I've got the top one closed to touch. I could open that back up. Tailings was a little high on the last field, so I did close the top sieve just one notch, but they're pretty much wide open. So this is called a Case IH flagship combine. It's an 8240 technically, but it's the flagship series, and I love these combines. These are excellent machines. Like, they do an excellent job, and they're very well built. I mean, the breakdowns that we have on these puppies are minimal, and so that's worth something right there. So there's this bracket on this header. This is a MacDon header, FD145, and this header almost kind of floats on the ground. You can see there's wheels there, and that is really nice. The 2388s, they're rigid, they're solid headers, and so you got to do a lot more adjusting to your header, which is fine. It's just, you know, why not improve it? Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot to pay attention to. And as far as like setting combines go for different crop types, there's a lot behind a combine harvester. And so every crop that you harvest, you have to change the combine settings. And so you'll either have to do like some nuts and bolts work and actually change some different things called concaves out, which are basically just screens that the grain can fit through. And you also have to change settings on the combine. So like with pinto beans, we'll lower the rotor speed way down because you don't want to make refried beans before you get them in the truck. And if you go too fast, my engine load will go up, my sieve loss sensor and my rotor loss sensor will go up, and the combine, I'll feel it and I'll hear it. You know, like when I'm combining, sometimes I'll have music on just barely when things are going good, but a lot of the time I just sit in silence because there's a lot of noises that come from this thing, and sometimes you'll hear like a little bearing go out or something, or just you gotta kind of listen to how the combine is working. So kind of interesting. You become one with the machine after a while. And machinery operators, you'll know what I'm talking about. So Jason in the grain cart, he's gonna come unload me. So with this stick that I'm controlling, I can control my speed, also put my auger with it, and then I press a button on it to unload. I usually slow down just a little bit before he comes under me, just because if I'm going too fast and I have to pull back really hard when I'm unloading, that's not great for any of us, because then you might spill some grain. So I'll probably dial her back to like 78%, 80%, because my engine load will actually increase as soon as I start unloading. Press our unload button. You kind of learn what the bad sounds are and what the not bad sounds are. I haven't heard many bad sounds that the combine screen has made at me, but they are kind of hardcore. Ooh, this is something kind of interesting. So this is my canvas speed. So there's not actually augers in these headers, they're canvases, so basically just a piece of rubber, kind of like an old swather, and you can change your speed with that. I found for this, 6 has been pretty good. I was at 7, it was kind of pulling it in a little too fast, so I slowed it down to 6, and it seems like it's beating pretty good. Well, I figure this is about my 13th year driving combine. I probably missed the harvester too, but I've been doing it for a long time. First time I ever drove combine was in a pull-type 1482, and I could do it, but I wasn't really an operator at that point. I was just kind of a warm body. I remember when I was a kid and I'd see the 1482s on the horizon, riding out to the field with my mom. Man, those were the days. Have the back loaded up with hot ditch, tater tot hot ditch, pop down the tailgate. Pizza Hut, that was always a fun one in the field. Storms are brewing. It's one of those bittersweet things, you know. I don't really want it to rain because of wheat harvest, or other crops could use rain. I guess you're content either way. I can feel it starting to get a little bit tougher here. As soon as the light disappears off the grain, it kind of starts getting a little tougher to thresh. It's really interesting. Or even like if you get some sprinkles, if you get just a light sprinkle, I mean, it's pretty much shot. It gets tough going. Tough thrashing. But it's still going pretty good here. She's still going. Lightning on the horizon. Couple drops on the window, but we're hanging in there.